Hey, it's A Helmet Collector here. In today's video, we're going to take a look at a piece of feldpost. It's been a while since we've done one of these. This is actually one that I did a video on years ago. I wasn't super happy with how it turned out. I ended up deleting it, I think a year, maybe a little over a year back. So it's a really interesting letter, though, and there's a lot of interesting history behind the unit that he was attached to. So I kind of wanted to redo that video, kind of repost it here. So going from just the envelope here, this was sent to a Frau Louise, and I really struggle with what that last name might be, but it was sent by an Unteroffizier Walter on October 13th of 1942. So going into the letter itself, October 12th, 1942, my dear Lou, you have got night shift at this time, and I am sitting here and thinking of you, the same way you were thinking of me. My sweet Lou, shortly before going to sleep, a few lines for you. The song sounds appropriate, which says, you are my heart's burning desire and my sweet dream. Which, side note, the translator on Reddit who originally did this for me actually knew the operette that song came from. This is apparently a line from the 1941 operette Flucht ins Glück, which is the escape into happiness, for those of you that were curious. Maybe you are also listening to it, and thus we are at least connected by this manner of hearing. I deeply thank you for the good cake, the smoking wares, and your best wishes. I had to eat the cake with a spoon because it was so brittle. Whatever did you put in it? I wonder if I will still be so far from you in a year. I would have loved so much today to have a kiss from you, to hold you in my arms once again, and have pressed you towards me until you would have told me to stop. But the dictate of the moment is to wait. Everything passes eventually. Whatever did I do today? At 6 o'clock, I woke up. 6 to 7, coffee break. 7 to 8 was lectures, which might also be something like exercise or training. The translator wasn't sure. At 9:30, my horse Titus was brought to me, and we rode out with an Unteroffizier till 12:30. It was once again marvelous. Today we had discovered a castle with a big park, uninhibited. We now rode higgledy-piggledy through the overgrown park, yet sometimes alone or together. The silence, it was wonderful. I sometimes thought myself in a bewitched castle. I was just missing a princess. My Titus seemed to feel the same I did. I let go of his reins. By himself he came to a halt, perked his ears, and didn't move a muscle. How lovely it would have been if you had also been there. It was also a farewell for us from this area. Come the end of the week, I will have to stop writing, not by choice. As soon, however, as I have the opportunity to send you a message, I will do so. Today afternoon was drill time. I had my group somewhat exercise through the terrain. That was all. My dearest, I wish you a pleasant night, and to myself that I dream something lovely of the both of us. Forever, your Walter. And then in the margin here, we have a note. Yesterday, I sent off 1 package and 3 today. Now, interestingly, the list of German feldpost numbers is actually available online. So we know that at the time, 35119 there was actually being used by the 304th Artillery Regiment, which was part of the 304th Infantry Division. And there's a couple interesting things I want to talk about in the letter before we actually move on to a little bit about the unit history. So at the time, the 304th was stationed in France, so obviously that explains the more peaceful, laid-back tone to this letter compared to other ones that you see from the Eastern Front. You know, stationed in France was fairly cushy, especially compared to what was going on out east. And we also see that, he seems to have a lot of leisure time. He's got a couple lectures or trainings that he's working through, but otherwise he's free to go ride his horse through the countryside. Now, the horse is interesting because I've seen several accounts of officers having horses on the Eastern Front, just as an easier way to get around. But for an Unteroffizier, which is basically like an NCO, to have a horse is kind of odd. Now, it is an artillery unit, so possibly Titus is actually one of the artillery horses, because unlike what we see in a lot of documentaries, the German army was largely horse-drawn during World War II. They didn't complete their full mechanization before the war started, and then production couldn't keep up. So they still used a ton of horse-drawn carts and horse-drawn artillery as well. And the reference to the castle is really interesting. I'm picturing, the original owners have had to flee at some point, probably as a result of the war. And Walter and his friend happened to come upon it. And given the reference to sending packages back home to his wife, Lou, I'm assuming that maybe there was some looting of that castle that might have gone on. It's kind of hard to say since he doesn't mention it explicitly. However, at the end there, where he's talking about them leaving that area at the end of the week, It's interesting to note that at that point, the end of October, the 304th Infantry Division was reorganized into an assault division and then was transferred to the Eastern Front, where they ended up joining the fighting that was going on along the Don River. So within a few months of sending this letter, Walter and his men would have found themselves fighting, in the beginning of winter on the Eastern Front in 1942. And they suffered some horrid casualties. The 304th got so badly mauled in the initial few months that it was on the Eastern Front, fighting in the south there, that the 574th Grenadier Regiment, which was part of the division, was completely disbanded due to the amount of casualties it had taken. Now, a lot of times we see regiments that take so many casualties, they're reorganized into a regimental group or something of that sort, but for them to be completely disbanded is quite unusual at this point in the war. Now, they would be pulled back from the front line to the Meuse in April of 1943 to reorganize, but from there they were basically constantly being thrown into battle after battle after battle until the division was eventually destroyed at the Vistula Bend in January of 1945. So, unfortunately, I don't know what happened to Walter. Like I said, the last name there is really, I've tried a couple different combinations. If it was like Buchel or Rosal or Rule or something like that, it's kind of a weird combination of letters. And I can't figure it out. So if you happen to know what that last name might be, it might help me maybe dig up a little bit more information. But assuming Walter stayed with the 304th Artillery Regiment, his odds of surviving the war, just based off what I've learned, don't look very good. So yeah, really interesting letter, and one that I wanted to redo the video of and show to you guys, again, just because really good content. And then this was actually translated for me by a translator over on the r/translator subreddit on Reddit. So definitely a bit of a team effort getting that translated for you guys. So yeah, overall, I hope you guys all enjoyed the video. Please leave a comment down below. Love hearing from you. Thank you all for watching. Happy collecting, and I'll see you all again very soon.